Hello everybody, Rhyquinn here, coach of the Cleveland Bros, bringing you today's Week 9 PPL D2 battle against Chi and Newcrustle United. Now before I go over the team, let me tell you that I did make changes like I promised. The first was I dropped Mega Slowbro and Landorus, and I added Mega Latios. This was not due to matchups, this was more that I have a long shot to get to the promotion, so I went to kind of try out something that I wanted to try out. And as you can see, I didn't bring it this week, but what I did bring was the second thing that I picked up, which was Ditto. Ditto was something that I've been toying around with, something that I've wanted to use, and now that I had room for it, I decided to try it out and see how it works. So I brought the Ditto, which is, of course, Choice Scarfed. But Chi's team is threatening. He only has a 1-7 record, but that doesn't mean that his team's not good. He had some unlucky breaks here and there, and other times he overpredicted or whatever, but his team is great. As you can see, Latios, Clefable, Entei, Blastoise, Crocodile, Pangoro, all of those are huge threats. This was the reason why I couldn't bring the Mega Latios, was because the Clefable, because the Scarf Crocodile, Scarf Latios, whatever. So instead I decided to bring these things. First of all, like I said, the Choice Scarf Ditto, which was there because I needed something that would tell me if his Entei had Sacred Fire. Because if it had Sacred Fire, that means it's Adamant. If it's Adamant and he's not Choice Scarfed, I have a Jolly Life Orb Excadrill with enough speed to outspeed an Adamant Entei. And with that, an Earthquake will kill the Entei. In fact, Earthquake 2-hit kills everything. Nothing can switch into an Excadrill, so Excadrill was going to be huge this game. Another thing that I brought was a Life Orb Emboar. Originally I had Sucker Punch on the Emboar, but at the last minute I decided to change it for Head Smash. I have Flame Charge, Flare Blitz, Head Smash, and Wild Charge. I wanted the Sucker Punch because it would have had a chance to kill a Latios with no investment. Next up I have a Life Orb Weavile. Standard. Actually, when I was trading with Better Jack, the last trade didn't go through. I quit too soon and I didn't get the Weavile that I specifically had for this, but I looked at my box and I had a Life Orb Jolly Weavile with enough speed to outspeed a Latios, so I used that one instead. Next up I have a Life Orb Florges with enough speed to outspeed a max speed Pangoro. It has a chance to 2-hit kill everything except for the Doublade, but I had Hidden Power Fire on here for the Doublade, which would be if it switches in on a Moonblast, and then 2 Hidden Power Fires would kill, but he didn't bring it, so that's no big deal. And finally, I brought my lead, which was a Focus Sash Thundurus with the coverage that could take out his entire team. So let's get into the battle and see how this one went. Like I said, I lead with my Thundurus, he leads with his Pangoro, and I know as long as this thing's not Assault Vest, a Focus Blast will kill, but he goes first, which means he is Choice Scarfed, and he knocks off my Focus Sash. No big deal. Focus Blast connects and picks up the kill. So just like that, turn 1, and we already have the lead. So it's 1 kill for Thundurus, and he brings in his Latios, which is this play. I expected him to expect me to go to Florges, and I went into my Excadrill expecting the Psyshock, but he goes for the Surf. Something I had no idea was coming, did not expect at all, and luckily we see that he is Life Orb, so that means my Weavile will outspeed and can kill him. So I really didn't expect Surf, but what I did expect here was a switch in to his Clefable, a physically defensive Clefable, which I could not 2-hit kill. So I make the switch into my Thundurus to get off a Sludge Wave, but he just goes into his Entei, which is shiny, but that does not confirm if he's Adamant or not. So he goes for Extreme Speed, and this would have been a perfect time to go into my Excadrill if it was still around. So without the Excadrill, I really have no good clean way to take out this Entei. So I know he's going to switch here, and I thought he'd maybe go into the Clefable. Probably not, but he goes into a Crocodile, and I go for the Flame Charge. He has Intimidate, so that might mean that he's defensive, but by the calcs here, he still could have been defensive, but I had a better chance of seeing that he was offensive. So I go into my Ditto, kind of to see if this thing is Scarfed, what this thing has for me. And what I did see was that this thing had Iron Tail, and that meant that he could kill my Florges. So I go for the knockoff, and I knock off his Wide Lens. He goes for another Earthquake and gets a low roll on this shot right here, which means I live on 4, and I'm Choice Scarfed in a knockoff. And I was just trying to knock him off to the point where an Ice Shard would kill, where I wouldn't have to risk the Icicle Crash. But by the damage there, a knockoff was not enough to kill, and I expected him here to switch out and go into his Entei or his Clefable, and he goes into his Clefable, and I go for the knockoff. And by this damage here, it looked like I got a really high roll, and he was defensive. So I switch out because Icicle Crash was not a kill on a defensive Clefable, and go into my Emboar, and he goes for a Thunder Wave. And right here, I'm going to tell you that I was not feeling great about this match at all. I thought that I was going to lose, and lose badly. I beat Chi last time, but this time he is just having all the answers. I don't have a switch in for anything, and I did the only thing I could do, and that was hope that Chi made the absolute worst play he could make, and predict that. Play like he's going to make the worst play, and me make the best play. So that would be him going out into his Entei, which would be his worst play, and me going for a Head Smash. He switches out, and he goes into the Entei. I fully expected him to go into his Blastoise, but he goes into his Entei, and as long as I don't get paralyzed and hit, I will kill him. I do both of those, and there goes the Entei, and that is a huge, huge, huge burden off my back, because now it looks like Florges can take out the rest of his team. He goes into his Crocodile here, and gets Intimidate, and I just stay in because I can't switch into this thing. And there goes Emboar. Emboar picked up the biggest kill of the season by far right there with that kill. So I go into my Weavile. I expect him to switch out, so I just go for the Icicle Crash, but he stays in. Had he switched out and gone into his Blastoise and brought his Crocodile back in, got the Intimidate off, Weavile would have had to switch back in and out, whatever, would not have been good. So as you can see, the Life Orb damage is starting to rack up a little bit. Here comes his Clefable, and again, I thought this thing was defensive, and I thought my only chance of winning was to get a flinch right here. So I go for the Icicle Crash, and I take him out, which I could have done how many turns ago, but I didn't because I thought this was defensive. In fact, it was an offensive with Meteor Mash, whatever. It was an awesome set. So I switch out here, and going to my Florges, I expected his Blastoise to be like a phaser, but instead he goes for Ice Punch, and he gets the freeze, and I couldn't help but laugh. I thought this was hilarious. I fall out, luckily, and I go for the Synthesis. So my thought right now is, what the heck? Why is this thing got Ice Punch? He goes for another Ice Punch, and I go for Synthesis. So I thought this thing would have Dragon Tail, Scald, whatever, just Toxic to phase out my Snorlax or anything else that I wanted to set up. So I go for the Moonblast here, and I see I made a mistake because I had the Energy Ball, and this thing is Assault Vest. He was Assault Vest with enough special defense to live a Specs Thunderbolt, which is awesome planning because he had the Magic Coat. or Mirror Coat, whatever. And here he goes for another Ice Punch and gets another freeze. So again, I'm laughing. I think this is just hilarious that an Ice Punching Blastoise froze my floor just twice. I thaw out again. Luckily, I don't lose too much from these freeze hacks. I have the Synthesis. I can heal up a little bit to the point where I go for the Energy Ball here. I know it's not going to kill, but I know I can live another Ice Punch. But what I can't live is the combination of an Ice Punch and an Aqua Jet. This thing had Aqua Jet, which is incredible. So now it all comes down to Weavile. Weavile all season hasn't done much except for against Paul. So it comes down to Weavile. Ice Shard does not take this thing out. Aqua Jet from his thing cannot kill me yet. So I go into Weavile. I go for the knockoff. He goes into his Latios because he needed the Life Orb damage. And now it all comes down to, can this Aqua Jet kill? If he gets a crit, game over. If he gets an extremely high roll, game over. Like I said, this was max attack, max speed, so I had no investment in anything else. Aqua Jet goes off, and I barely live. I go for the knockoff, and I kill the Blastoise. And after the Life Orb recoil, I live on 12. Had Rocks been up, had something been up, this game would have been different. Weavile lives, and we pick up the win in an incredibly fun and probably the most fun match I've had in the PPL. Thank you, Chief, for the battle. I've brought 4 Life Orb users and had no switch-ins to anything. His team, again, is scary, and had he not made the switch into his Entei on my head smash, he would have 100% won the game, because without my Excadrill, I had nothing to take him out. This keeps us in contention. We are a long shot out, but it's still a shot, so we're going to keep on playing our hearts out, and hopefully we can pull out the win. Next week we play Evelyn and the Herdier Bremen, so stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for more PPL action.